Hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to be talking to you about a Guardian.com article called Enough Autism Awareness, the necessity now is action. The article was written by Josh Harris, who is a Guardian columnist. Let's get into the video. It says, the progress has been made, but the release of the profound film The Reason I Jump shows how still much further we need to go. The film shines a light on parts of the autistic experience many of us would recognise within ourselves. This quote is from Jordan O'Donegan in The Reason I Jump. A film comes out this month that is among the most profound, thought-provoking and moving features of documentary making I've ever seen. It is about autism and a state of being that far too many people misunderstand or ignore. But as it ranges across the lives played out in Japan, UK, the US, India and Sierra Leone, it also shines a light on parts of the autistic experience many of us would recognise within ourselves. In doing so, the film shows how little we still know about the human mind, but how much more we understand than we did a decade ago. So, The Reason I Jump draws on the revelatory book of the same name, written by the Japanese author Naoki Higashida when he was only 13 and first published within 2007. Diagnosed with autistic tendencies when he was 6 years old, Higashida had always displayed the deep difficulties with spoken communication common to many autistic people. But when he learned to use a computer connected to an alphabet grid, he began to map out his world in rich episodic prose that rarely wasted a word. And then the columnist Josh Harris says, my eldest child James, who is now 14, is autistic. And when I first read the translation of Higashida's book by the novelist David Mitchell and his wife Kyoko Yoshida, who also have an autistic son, it confirmed many things that me and my partner and I had known about James and his rich interior life, as well as highlighting aspects of his mind and experiences that we barely had started to think about. So many plain truths were laid out from the way that many autistic people feel and express their emotion as a profoundly physical set of events, hence the title, through an instinctive affinity with nature to the clarity of recollections from early infancy. Higashida said that while a normal person's memory is arranged continuously like a line, his was more like a pool of dots, in which something he experienced years ago might just feel as vivid as an event that had only just happened. The film uses the magic of the camera to invoke and explore these experiences and states. It also focuses on a handful of young autistic people and their parents and carers spread across the world, highlighting aspects of their lives that contradict common perceptions of autism. Not at least a huge capacity for empathy and the need for company, and also what they are up against. Even if the language of psychosis and retardation had dwindled, Western societies are still using it, smattered with the attitude it expressed. Elsewhere, for example, in Sierra Leone, there are awful stories of autistic children judged to be demonic and unwanted, and simply have been abandoned within the bush. So again, to me, I'm going to add my own opinion onto this part of the article. This is about assumptions and medical labels that autistic people like me and Higashida and Josh's son are all seen as bad, damaged, cursed, mentally retarded, brain damaged people, and we're not. A lot of parents get fearmongered because they read supposed cures or ways to treat autism when you can't treat it, and it really annoys me that the parents are often being misled on this situation and then they abandon children over to the care system or just totally abandon them elsewhere in society and act like they're not their children. Here clearly is another frontier of the modern struggle for human rights. Indeed, towards the end of the film comes another Higashida's elegant sentences, which is close to a rallying crisis writing style. The hardest ordeal for me is the idea that I'm causing grief for other people. Please keep battling alongside me. I totally agree with Higashida's point, because we need people to battle with us. We need people to sit and stand with us and help our cause, help our call, be the people who believe in us and help make our future more accessible, because right now autistic people are still being labelled as bad, damaged, naughty, poisoned, brain damaged, broken, all that kind of stuff, and it needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. I'm sick of hearing these words all the same time. Every day I hear it on some video or an article, and I'm just like, Can't we get to a place where acceptance is key and crucial just for once in our lives? Which brings us to the politics of all of this. Self-evidently, autistic people remain still marginalised, misunderstood and far too often denied to what they should have as a matter of basic entitlement. Everything from having miserable rates of employment among autistic adults to their wretched experiences within the benefit system attests to how much institutionalised stupidity still needs to be overturned. After the often awful experiences visited on autistic children and young people by lockdown, there are even more cuts to councils for funding for those with special educational needs. Something that is framed in a doublespeak of overspend that actually represents under-budgeting for the additional shifts in the way institutions and individuals feel autism within society. Again, this is my own opinion, this comes down to a lack of acceptance and training, a system that does not accept people who are disabled or neurodiverse. They want the system to work for people who are neurotypical. They want the system to be for people who are not physically disabled, not mentally disabled. They want people who are conforming to the stereo quo, to the status quo. They want people to conform in a system that is all good and works for everybody, which that isn't the case. Autistic people can't conform to a system that does not work for them. The system is not created for people like me. It doesn't fit for people like me. It won't accept people like me. It's just something that won't happen. And unfortunately, it's to do with political spending. It's to do with societal attitudes. Like this article actually says, I agree with this paragraph. And it says that autism is recently summarised by Mitchell as he promoted the film. He now insists that we should think of it as less as a cognitive disability and more as a communication disability, and let autistic people out of the invitational prison and allow them full human credentials which are too often denied. I strongly agree with what Josh is saying in that paragraph, because it's not necessarily a cognitive disability. Yes, I have different ways of communicating cognitively and getting my words and my speech out, but again, it is a communication disorder. It's about how my brain works to communicate every day, how I put my own strategies in place, how I help myself to become better than what I was beforehand. So it's about having that communication, having that style structure, having people in your life to support you for the best of who you are. So again, society does not understand how to communicate with people on the spectrum or our needs. But at the same time, if society had a better understanding and spoke to people like me on a daily basis, I agree that the benefit system needs to be overturned. The benefit system has no idea of how to support people on the autistic spectrum or even within the disability community. Autism and disability is seen as so bad and tragic and difficult within the employment and benefit system. They don't know how to help you because they are not trained, and that's the thing that annoys me. The sooner we can get people in the benefit system trained to help provide for our needs and help to support us on our journey through the benefit system, the better. Every time I go to the benefit system, I get teary, I get anxious, I feel sick, I feel nauseous, I have a headache, because I know full well of what's going to happen. It's going to be the same questions and the same uncomfortable situations that I face. So yeah, let's get into the next part of the article. And it says, such words might suggest anger and desperation, but there is a rising understanding of autism's amazing complexity and the grasp of the condition that would have been unthinkable only a relatively short time ago. The basis of this is science and academic inquiry, and such advances as the British psychiatrist Lorna Wing revelation as autism being a spectrum manifests in such a huge variety of ways, which was developed in the late 1970s and 1980s and is still ripping through society today. So I totally agree with that. Dr. Lorna Wing helped to make autism a spectrum, and she helped to make it known that people on the spectrum have all different needs, levels, severities, and we're not just one. Once you've met one person with autism, that is it. We all are on a line. We all have different needs, abilities, levels, functionality, communication needs, communication styles. So again, let's get into the next paragraph where it says, but two other factors also stick out. One is the prominence of autism in the world within literature and the arts. Before The Reason I Jumped trial was blazed by Mark Haddon in 2003, the novel The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, and the American author Steve Silberman's Neurotypes, A History of Autism and a Plea for its a plea for its acceptance, which again, against plenty of expectations, became a bestseller. The Other Now, which marks a huge shift in the newish worlds of autistic self-advocacy and the way the internet has given a voice to those who the pre-digital age often condemned to silence, now unite by the brilliantly potent concept of neurodiversity. I agree, as the years have gone on, that we do have a lot more autistic self-advocates online. I do agree that our voice is being heard more and more, but the problem is people who don't feel confident to have a voice like me, who can't come onto social media, or who can't come onto YouTube to create content, where are their voices? People like me have to speak up for them, because the people who can't verbally communicate or choose not to because of the fear and the backlash, the stereotypes, this is where self-advocacy fails, because there is not a way to self-advocate for everybody, and I can only self-advocate for myself. I would never self-advocate for any other people on the spectrum, because it's not the right thing to do. I am self-advocating for myself. Let me put that out there to make that clear. I am never self-advocating for everybody. To advocate for everybody would be a total disaster. So, yeah. I agree. Again, there is books coming out by Steve Silverman and The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. These are really good books to read if you wish to read up on autism and disability. Again, it can be a barrier though, because not a lot of people like to read. So again, it's depending whether you like an audio book or whether you want to actually read the book. One truth in particular from this article blares from the reason I jump. The help autistic people get should be matching about what society and the state are able to do with voices such as Higashida tells us. For one of a need for one-to-one support and the right technology, a non-verbal autistic child might remain locked into their own world. If employers don't embrace both the benefits of autistic people can bring and how to make their lives simply easier, oceans of potential will continue to be wasted. The same will happen if we do not redesign parts of the private and public sector in line with autistic people's needs and severities. The world is now brimming with annual rituals all about autism awareness, but the necessity now is action. So again, my own opinions on this paragraph is that we are finally moving out of the stereotypes of autism, thanks to books and films that are coming out about autism to make it such a less label. And the thing is, we're not locked in our own worlds. This again is a stereotype battle. We are wanting to have better awareness and inclusion of those who are on the spectrum, such as me, to employers to help train us and employ us in a work situation, rather than assume that we're too damaged or broken to work. Once you've met one person on the spectrum, rather than seeing the world and us as disabled or broken, employ us, try us out in the workplace, stop seeing autism as a barrier, and now is the time for action. Don't just advocate and say that you're an advocate for action, but prove it. Now we have more advocates than ever before to help society get better off at understanding what autism and how people like me work. There are increasingly frequent signs of small but significant moves moving in the right direction. Last week, the National Theatre made an announcement about the lead role in its touring production of The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. It is said it wants to give every male identifying actor the playing age of 14 to 18 who identifies as neurodivergent the opportunity to be seen for an audition, and would work closely with the actors who are eventually cast in this role to individualise support whilst on tour. An example of this might be enabling them to tour with a support worker. This is what progress looks like. So far it's been measured within small steps. Autistic people away is our mission, which is a quantum leap. So yeah, I just want to touch on basically that we have to make theatre and employment more accessible, and we have to make them steps forward by doing work trials, letting us bring a support worker or maybe bring a parent with us on the work trial so they can explain to the employer how to help our needs, how to make sure that we're accepted, how to make sure we can function to the best ability that we can be within the workplace. I would love to work in a paid job, but unfortunately when an employer sees the word autism, they run a mile or they put it in the bin because they see the word disabled or disabled woman, autistic woman. And it's like, why? Why can't you just give me a chance to prove myself? I'm more than able enough and fit enough to work within your society too. So the time is for action, time is for acceptance. I hope you agree with me. Let me know what you think down in the comments down below. Please like, comment, share and subscribe, and I'll be back next time. Bye!